Hey everybody, I certainly hope that you can hear me and see me, though that might not be the best of things. Let me see, where are my messages coming up? Okay. Walter, welcome. Glad you made it. David. Okay. Yes. Walter, I will make a playlist for the 4x objective. That has come up a couple of times in the last week, actually. Hello, Allan. Glad you made it. Listen, guys, I went to... Hello, Emily. And Bruce, excellent. Glad you made it. I have been running around in circles trying to do something with the video and the audio to make it a little more professional. And it's just equipment. I need more equipment. I don't have all the bits and pieces. I set up a DSLR here and a DSLR here and a DSLR up there. To show you various different things, but it turns out that you have to have separate things to plug them into. I think what I'm going to do is get one of those switching devices that's like a laptop keyboard that I plug everything into, and then I can jump around from that without having to use the laptop. They're a bit costly, so I'll set the money aside for it at some point, but that's what I'm going to have to do, because this really is I don't want it to become boring, and I want to show you stuff because I've got a whole bunch of equipment laid out for the Wii Macro that I wanted to talk to you about if we had time. So anyway, where was I? I'm getting ahead of myself. There we are. So a playlist for the using the 4x objective. Yes, I was asked a couple of times this week where those videos were and how they were categorized, and I've been planning to get all of my videos kind of in a more sensible order so that people can find them. But every time I do that and I start looking at them, what I want to do is get rid of them and remake them, and I don't have time to do that, so I end up not doing anything with them. But yeah, I will do that. I'll get a new playlist together for several key topics like that. All right, let me see. Emily, are you new joining us? I don't remember seeing your name. I would have remembered a name like that. Welcome. Anyway, welcome. Glad you're here. And David Brown from Maine. Whereabouts? Near Portland? I love Maine. Love Maine. Almost trained in Maine. But fortunately, my wife and I went up there during the winter. So we didn't really have to leave Portland to know that, yeah, I didn't want to be there. It was very cold. Let me see. Susan, welcome. I know where you are. All right. Bonjour, Gilles. That was close, wasn't it? For an Englishman. Well, I'll tell you what, while I'm waiting on questions, hey, Laura, glad you made it. Glad you made it. Laura, you'll notice that some of the pictures are missing from my wall. You will understand why that is eventually. All right, cryptic talk. That's no good. Nobody will understand that. So what we have here on the other camera is what I've done so far, and it probably doesn't look like much. This is the beginnings of the Wii Macro test platform. I decided, because I don't have all the parts I need for the kind of the big station that I'm building. I've been planning for it for the last year, and I have some of the parts, but I don't have everything I need. I thought what I'd do was just build a good, solid, serviceable platform that would be great for teaching, and would show you how I set up with tubes, because as almost all of you know, when I do high magnification stuff, I'm normally using bellows these days. In fact, I've been using bellows for years. It's my preferred way to go, but I know a lot of you like to use tubes. So what I thought I would do would be to set up the ideal perfect tube system for my photography, and then use that as the platform to tell you all about the Wii Macro, which I'm learning a lot about. The parts that I have so far, and it doesn't look like I've done much, but I've actually done quite a lot. I don't just throw these things together overnight. I give it some thought and plan exactly what I want to do. For example, the rail, I decided to raise it up just a little bit over the base of the platform. This platform's 1.5 inches thick plywood, so it's very, very heavy, very sturdy, but I still want more height for the rail. And something else that I need is I need this rail to be able to move, because if you just take this and bolt it to your table, it'll be nice and stable, and it'll be great when you're using your favorite rig and you have your microscope objective on and your tube lens in here and everything's great. And then somebody gives you a gigantic jewel bug from Madagascar and you want to photograph it. Well, you can't photograph it with this unless you just want to photograph a quarter of one of its eyes. So you're going to need your macro lens and your camera, and when you put that on here, you suddenly realize that you can't even focus on the thing because it's so big it needs to be across the room. So what you need to be able to do is also move the rail back if need be. So what I've done is I'm going to put a second aluminum plate on top of my wooden stand here, and it's going to have 3 quick release clamps on it to hold the Wii Macro, so that I can easily move the Wii Macro this far back, this far forward, and greatly expand the usability of the rail. And the same for the specimen side. You need to have, for most of the high magnification stuff, you want your specimen right in front of the lens. But for a macro lens, you want it about 12 inches away. And sometimes for big stuff, you're going to want it 2 feet away. So I'm also building a platform that will slide forwards and backwards to mount my specimen on. And because my subject is going to be potentially moving backwards and forwards, I also needed a way to adjust my lights, something that I don't have on my current rig, which has been frustrating for me. So what I did was I took a stainless steel towel rack from the hardware shop, and I sawed it in half right in the middle. This is where it would, the sticky outy bit at the top, which is perfect for stopping things like diffuser panels or flashes from twisting, where you put the clamp on it. This is what screwed into the wall, and that was the other one, and they were joined in the middle, so it would be one big towel rack thing. But I sawed it in half, and then I cut threads in one end, so that it would fit into these little things that are called nipples. Now, I do apologize for the use of such a risky word on the computer, but there you go. That's what they're called. We can't tell stories about it. So these are my nipples that I'm screwing these rods into, and because those are themselves screwed into the plywood, they're not budging, and these make the best stands. But I can move them to 4 different positions. That's the point. So what else have I done? I had to wait on tubes and adapters. I wanted an ITL 200 adapter for this particular rig. So I got one of the WeMacro ones, and I love it. It's really very similar to the Thorlabs one, except the price, which is less than the Thorlabs one. This thing is important because when I mount the rail up here, I also want to be able to move the rail and remove this rail easily, because I'm going to switch cameras for just a second. I'm sorry, that one's a bit dark. I thought I did a better job of setting the ISO. Anyway, this is a pretty standard setup for me. It's at 245 millimeters to the relay lens, and then 75, I'm doing it backwards, 75 to the objective. And you're probably thinking, well, I haven't read that anywhere. This is Robert O'Toole's testing setup that I adopted some time ago now, years ago now, and it's a very good way to do it. But there's another way to do it that'll give you a little less magnification. If you're using the 20 and you want to get about 14 times magnification, what you can do is cut the first distance down to 148 millimeters. How do you do that if the whole thing is bolted in one piece onto the rail? That's just too much work, and you're going to knock everything out of alignment. So I want to be able to lift this piece off, take it to the bench, remove one section of it and put it right back on, and I can do that in just a few minutes, providing it comes off. So that's why I've put this second rail up here, or it's not a rail, it's just another piece of aluminum that's going to have quick release clamps in it, so that everything will be on a quick release clamp and I can take it off and modify it, do whatever I need to do. So that's what I'm doing. That's where we are so far. Did anybody see the review of the microphone things that I did this weekend? If you didn't, you're probably still going to be okay, because I'm not sure that I said anything there that would be important to most people's lives. But these things, I need somebody brighter than me to tell me how in heaven's name you hook them up to your computer, because there are about 15 YouTube videos showing you how to do this with a wireless lavalier mic, and they're all different. They all tell you to do different things, and none of them have worked for me so far. If anybody is a whiz at modern Mac computers and wireless stuff and knows how I could get this thing working, do tell me, because I really want to use it. That way I can be wandering around while I do this instead of having to talk to the microphone. Okay, let me get back to the list here and see who has joined us. All right. It is your first time, Emily. Well, glad. Don't be put off. Well, no, be put off. I'm always like this, so it doesn't get any better. All right. Arthur, welcome. In Massachusetts, eh? Where do you find 40 pins? I don't find them anymore. I used to get them from Ukraine. There was a distributor in Ukraine that at one time was selling them to the people that make the Enter Crisis pins that I like, the yellow packet. But I have not found 40 pins in about a year, and I used the last one I had about 3 months ago. It was a sad day, because 30s are too big for a lot of the stuff I pin. So there is a place in England that a viewer told me about, and now I'm not going to forget who told me, but I wrote it down. There's a shop in England, and I got in touch with them, and they probably emailed me back an answer, because I asked them if they could source 40 pins for me. But of course, I'm 7,000 emails behind now, so I don't know how I'd ever find it. I guess I could search for it. So I'll look and see, and if there is word on the 40 pins, I'll let you know. Alan, I'll drop you an email. Emily, my daughter is going to Portland, Oregon for her birthday in about a week's time. You should say hi to her. She's good people. How can you avoid or delay flies forming disco eyes? You'll have to tell me what a disco eye is. Yeah, you've completely got me there. I've never heard that term before, outside of a disco, which I haven't been to in 35, 40 years, I would add. I don't know what they are. Just rotten eyes, covered over with scum and ugliness? Well, get back to me on that. Tell me what a disco eye is, and then I'll tell you how I get rid of it. Effective aperture reduces the amount of light reaching the sensor, but does it have a positive or negative effect on depth of field? The effective aperture is the aperture that the sensor sees. We only call it the effective aperture because it's different than the nominal aperture that's set on the lens. So if say this was a manual lens and we set it at oh dear, that wasn't on very well. We set it at f8. Let's say I'm going to demonstrate an f8 aperture. There we go. So we set it at, hang on, I want to do this demonstration because it will be useful. So we set our aperture at f8 on the lens. Then we move the lens a foot in front of where it is, and all of a sudden the sensor is seeing that. So effective aperture really is the aperture that the sensor is seeing, and the only reason we call it the effective aperture is because the number on the lens does not conform to that. So the depth of field will increase as your effective aperture increases. You are actually photographing at f11 or f97 as our friend Andy Murray likes to do when he puts his MPE65 on a 6.5 foot long extension tube. You have a very, very high effective aperture, and you get the depth of field that you would have with that aperture, and you also have all the diffraction softening that you would have with it. So yeah, it's the real thing. Bryce, good to have you, my friend. You haven't been on either before. It's wonderful to see you. You're in New Zealand, so it's what, Saturday there? I know you're several days ahead of us or something like that. I am so glad that you made it. Bryce is a friend of mine from down under, who is one of the most accomplished technical photographers I have ever met. And he's also a fantastic artistic, creative photographer. But his macro work for he catalogues what he finds, or he catalogues the insects of his environment, and his pictures are something to behold. And I asked Bryce last year if he would come on the program and let me interview him and let us look at some of his amazing pictures. And I think he's in the process of having his mind changed, and him showing up today is a good sign. So Bryce, the invitation is still open, so if you're interested, get in touch. We'll find a time and get it set up. We are doing some really cool interviews, Emily. If you haven't seen any of those, they're all recorded too, but we have great ones coming up. I don't want to jinx myself, but I've been talking to a few popular YouTube macro photographers about coming on, and we also have Alison Pollock coming up in a few days. She's a slime mold and fungus photographer of world renown, and she has won the the prestigious Small World Prize, the Nikon Macro Competition Prize. So it's exciting. We have exciting stuff coming down the pike. Just a couple of weeks ago, we interviewed one of the nicest people you could ever hope to meet. Chris, yeah, there you go. Lost his name there for a second. Chris Field, who's a filmmaker and a time-lapse macro photographer who does some just amazing work. And we talked for a couple of hours a week ago. So yes, that's all coming up, and now we have Bryce McQuillan to look forward to as well. By the way, Alison Pollock will be with us on October the 28th, which is 21 days after my birthday, so you'll probably already be starting to think about what to get me next year. But we'll talk more about that later. Let's see. Hello, Paul. Welcome from Florida. You're just what part of Florida? Are you down in the dangly bit, or are you up on the Gulf bit near me? Do let me know, because I'll yell at you if you're close. Bryce, I want to see that live video of yours. Did you record it? Let me know. Let me know where I can see it. Yes, a new white background image. That is a good challenge. I've got all kinds of challenges coming up for this setup. Toluca, welcome. Hey, have you guys been putting your fungus pictures over on Discord? Remember, we have a competition going, and 2/3 of the month have already gone by. So if you have a mushroom or a toadstool or a slime mold growing on or near you, take a picture of it, put it in the competition. The competition entries are getting better and better, but the number of entries or the number of entrants is getting a little anemic. And I wanted to mention this too. I'm getting all my announcements in as we go. I want to hit up a few of the people that I know in the industry and see if I can't get us a few little prizes, a few giveaways for this live stream. And to do that, we really need to show them that there are a bunch of people who are going to be looking at their product being given away. So we need to get some more people. Invite a friend. If you know a macro friend or somebody who you think would benefit from being a macro person, send them over here on a Tuesday, 8 o'clock in the evening. We have a kilobyte per second update. It's 2715 right now, which 2,715 megabytes per second. It's a little less than the 70 megabytes per second that my speed test showed right before airtime. But they were out on the poll today. I hate to call them internet providers. It sounds as if they do something different when I call them that, like provide internet, but we know that's not the case. But anyway, so far so good. Let's hope we're not buffering. I haven't dropped a single frame yet. Rick, glad to have you, and I'm glad you like the videos. I make them for you. Even I wouldn't make videos for me. That would be weird. Let me see. When the eye forms a glassy or metallic look. What? Well, I can't keep asking you questions because it involves you having to type an answer. Yes, I mean, eyes will do a number of things depending on how you're preserving them. If you're preserving them in isopropyl alcohol, yeah, sometimes they'll get that look, but usually not in ethanol. But no matter what is wrong with the eye, I always start with gentle cleaning in soap and water. That's job one. Almost anything that involves a breakdown of the covering of the compound eye will come off with soap and water. It'll lift off just by wafting the fly back and forth in room temperature water with a drop or two of a good high surfactant soap. My friend Stephen, I hope you're listening. I hope you're doing well. Up in Canada, sent me a bottle. I can't remember the name of it. Oh, I should bring it in here, but yeah, I can't bring in everything under my sink in case I need to remember the name of it. But yeah, I'll remember it eventually. He sent me a big bottle of soap from Canada, and they have some serious soap up there. This stuff doesn't have any smelly stuff in it. It doesn't have any dye in it. It doesn't separate out like Dawn and other detergents, and it is magic on compound eyes. Well, actually, Gilles, you're up in Canada. You might be able to buy this stuff. I will send you the name if I can't remember it. I definitely won't know what this note I'm writing means. Soap Gilles. Yep. I'll read that and I'll think, well, that doesn't sound appropriate. Anyway, if I can remember the name of it, a big white bottle with blue writing on it, and that stuff is the first line of defense against funky eyes. If washing it doesn't do it, take a very, very soft, fine detail paintbrush, the kind that I don't have any of at my desk, but they're really. I'll put a link in the description of the video that's going to be the recording of this for all of this stuff. So the soap will be there too, come to think of it. And take the brush in the soapy water with a magnifying glass. I have a jeweler's loupe that I use when I'm not under the microscope. You scrunch it into your eye, and it allows me to just clean the eyes without damaging them. And all you're doing is just really gently stroking the eye. You don't want to dig in with the brush. And the brush needs to be so soft, it feels like it's hardly touching. If that doesn't do it, then you're going to have to break out the Decon 90, 40, 60. There's a Decon and a number. I think it might be 90. That stuff is much more powerful. It's got detergents and surfactants in it. It's what they use when you've gone all 3 Mile Island and you're radioactive, and they come in with the brooms and start washing you in the shower. Decon 90 is what they're putting all over you. And that stuff will resurrect eyes that shouldn't be salvageable. I have seen them do the most remarkable things. I've never seen this written anywhere or anybody talk about it for that matter, but it also resurrects other body parts on dragonflies, for example. I've got some dragonflies that just look terrible after being in alcohol for a year, and I didn't think I was going to salvage them, but the markings on the thorax were so beautiful, and I wanted to try to clean them. The Decon just completely rejuvenated them, brought the colors back too. Amazing. So when in doubt, have some Decon handy. It's a hard thing to find, but when you find it, buy a litre and it'll last you for the rest of your life and your heirs as well, probably. I don't use much of it, and I don't use any of it right now because I'm out. All right. Did that answer the question? I hope so. Rick, when will my next back to basic macro video come out? Right. Great question. I have no idea. I know what it is. I have so many things that are in the process of getting done, but I am a one-man band. I am the secretary, I'm the video guy, the sound guy, go to the grocery shop and get the crackers guy. I do it all, and there's only so much time in the day, and everything I do takes time, whether it's writing a quick post on Patreon or the only thing that doesn't take really much more time than doing it is this. And it's one of the reasons that this is so exciting to me. It allows me to spend more time with you in a slightly more personal way, responding to what you want to ask me or talk about. Yet it doesn't take me 4 days to produce this, whereas it does take me 4 days to produce a regular video. But that doesn't mean I'm not making videos. I am also putting out videos, but this takes some of the pressure off for me to have 2 bits of fresh content every week. The beginners stuff that I have coming out, one thing is the insect study. That is going to be an everybody thing, and it will be probably more than one video. But for those of you who aren't aware of it, I am about 3/4 of the way, well, 2/3 of the way through a study of all the major insect providers, dead insect sellers in the world. And I have been ordering insects from them and comparing everything about the experience of putting in an order and getting the insects, photographing the insects, talking about them, showing you, what's good, what's bad from each vendor, just giving you everything you could possibly need to know who you want to do business with, depending on where you are in the world. And I'm going to present all of that data and in a way that should be fun and pretty light. Coming up also, we have the Wii Macro videos, which will be great if you're a beginner at extreme macro. If you're just starting out with extreme macro, that'll be great. I'm also going to do some beginner stuff in field macro before we run out of summertime. It's getting dark a little bit earlier now, but I want to get some of that outdoor stuff for people who are brand new. So soon. I am conscious of the fact that it's been a lot of high magnification stuff lately. Sorry about that. All right. So Bryce, you already, it's going to be on Wednesday, or it was on Wednesday? 1:15 in the afternoon. Well, if it's this Wednesday, that will be tomorrow, which means you're already doing it now because you're already in tomorrow. That's too confusing. I don't know. Hey, Hank, how are you? Good to see you. Or not see you, but hear from you. All right. Brilliant. 19-day-old children do tend to really take to macro, I think. They take to everything at that age. Has he eaten one of your objectives yet? Southwest. Miami, then. Oh, Cape Coral. That's near Miami. You are returning to Thailand. Well, when did you come from Thailand? You should have said. How do you catch the fruit flies that are gravitating towards your nose at 8 o'clock in the evening? Well, have you tried sniffing? What is it you want to do with them once you catch them? Oh, you want to photograph them. Sniff into a bag. In fact, have you got one of those insect traps? I made one time. It's a suction thing. You need a piece of plastic tubing. Oh, I might actually have everything I need to build one of these. You have a piece of plastic tubing and then a jar or a little plastic cup with a hole that a lid that you can poke holes in. Poke a hole in it and stick this in, then poke another hole and stick another piece of tubing in on the other side. Okay, so you've got tubing coming into a plastic cup, tubing coming out the plastic cup. All right, it needs to be bigger than this. Put one end in your mouth like that, and when the insects start landing on your nose, suck in the tube while holding the other end where the flies are. And it'll suck them into the tube and they won't be able to get back out, and they'll end up in your little cup. That's how I do it. I did that with ants a while ago, earlier this year, while I was making a video, and somehow got an ant in my mouth. Don't recommend it. Don't recommend doing that for ants. They're resourceful. I'd rather have your fruit flies on my nose than that one ant in my mouth. Yeah, Bryce is asking if my new rig here is going to be horizontal. It's going to be both horizontal and vertical. I've been a bit cagey about this because I don't want to spoil the surprise when I eventually get it done. But I am doing a combo platform, and that's all I'm going to say about it right now. But that's taking longer than planned. I don't have enough hours in the day to devote to it. So this is going to be both. It's going to be, let me switch cameras again. It's going to be at first so that I can start my testing quickly, because it's been too long already. I'm going to have a horizontal rig. That's partly because I shoot 90%, 99% actually horizontal. It's the easiest way for me to shoot the subjects that I shoot. But then while I'm doing that, I'm going to also construct a vertical platform on the other end of this and have that ready to go within another week. So yeah, I will be doing both and testing the Wii Macro on both. It's important to test the linear actuator both vertically and, oh dear, both vertically and horizontally, because it may behave differently. I don't think it will. I have a feeling that this is going to be fairly satisfactory. I've run a few tests on it already, but I'm not going to tell you what I found until it's time to give you all the results. But that's going to be another beginner's thing, because the second video in the series, the first one's going to be a review, but the one after that, it's going to be how to set up a platform like this. And I'll go through everything in an organized manner and show you how to put it together. In fact, I'm recording most of what I'm doing now, not now this minute, but now with the platform, so that will form part of the videos. All right. Robert, good to hear from you. No worries. Robert just said he was sorry for being late. There is no late on the live stream. If you come, then you're welcome, and if you come late, then you're just as welcome. And if if people want to come and go, they want to come and ask a question and leave, that's fine. You don't have to apologize to me for it. I'm just glad you dropped by and said hi. So yeah, that's the way it's going to be. Ah, right. Renew, yes, that's a good one, Susan. I do use that less than I used to. Renew is a contact lens cleaner, and the reason that I used it, and the reason that I used to use it a lot, is it has enzymes in it, or the stuff that I think it was Renew used to have these proteolytic enzymes that would, if you were very careful, they could clean up the worst of the worst stuff off the eyes. But if you're not very careful, it could also dissolve other things like antennas. I don't know if they're still putting enzymes in that stuff or not. I haven't used it in a while. I'll check and get back to you, Susan. But yes, one of the things I have coming up that I plan to do in the winter when I can't be outside is I want to do a series on looking at and studying pond scum, pond creatures, and plankton, and all kinds of cool stuff that you find in water, including saltwater stuff. There are all kinds of things you can find. And that's going to take a special vertical rig, and now as I have access to this, we'll be doing that I think in the winter time. So yeah, that's going to be fun. That'll be something very different to do. Yeah, I would be dreading really dreading going back to Thailand if I was awaiting flies to try to lay their eggs in my nose. I'd just stay here or wherever you are. Where are you? Tac Foray? Tac for a it? I have no idea how to pronounce that name in Thai. Though I did have sticky rice for my dinner last night. I have it most nights. I'm a bit addicted to Thai sticky rice. All right. Rick, you watched an older video about me in a parking lot with a bird. Yes. Did I ever find out if it had a broken leg? No. But thank you for rubbing it in. I was out at a local spot that I love because it's full of goldenrod and it is just crawling with ambush bugs, one of my favorite subjects to shoot. And one day I went out there, just me and my net, and as I got out of the car and wandered over to the area I like to shoot at, this poor bird, which was on the ground, and it had a wing out, and it started making a terrible fuss, going round in circles, and I thought, oh dear, the thing's in agony. And I was going to pick it up. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, take it to the vet or something. But as I got close to it, it suddenly seemed to get better for a minute and ran away a little bit and then started doing this thing again. Well, I spent half an hour chasing that damn bird around the parking lot, and it turns out the thing was just fooling me. It was making the whole thing up to draw my attention away from its nest. It could just have said to me, go the other way, my nest is over here. But yeah, so I obviously made a video of it, like I am inclined to do, and then got about 4,500 emails from everybody who knows this to be a fact, that bird was making fun of me, or making a fool out of me. So there you go. It still tries to do it when I go there. I don't fall for it though, I just keep going where I'm going. I hope I don't step on her babies or anything, but I've already forgotten what kind of bird it is. I have a name for it that's not repeatable, but yeah, if somebody can remember what it's called, put it up on the notes. But yeah, very embarrassing that. Why did I just tell the whole story again? I was almost over it. All right. Dearie me. Oh, 2:30 in the morning. What are you doing up at 2:30 in the morning? Well, you're working in a studio, a music studio, no doubt. So you're probably just getting started for the day. I was up at 2:30 in the morning one night last week getting a video finished, and I don't like being up that late because plover, that's it, because the morning comes too quick. Is it music or is it video? Are you let me know what you do in that studio. I suppose it could be a photography studio. That would explain your interest in macro. I should have been a detective, don't you think? Like a Sherlock type person. Yeah, Bruce is right. It's a plover, but they call it something else as well. Smart Alec bird or something. Let me see. Oh, you know what? That my friend Mike was right. The messages thing on the YouTube screen is a lot easier to read than the one in OBS. They show more of the comments. I wonder if I missed any comments from earlier. If I miss a question because it went by and I didn't spot it, just ask it again and say, you're asking it again. All right. Yeah, I mean, microscopic flies. Tac. Can I call you Tac? Because I can say that. I can't say the last thing you wrote because it just wouldn't sound right the way I would say it. Yeah, Phuket is a place in Thailand from what I hear. Anyhow, I photograph almost exclusively things that you can't see, or I can't see without a magnifying glass. I net flies of the size you're talking about all the time, and I sort them out back in the studio, and I mount them on little hairs to photograph them. And it's fascinating because I get to see things that typically you don't see, and I get to show pictures of things that people haven't seen before, and that's a real thrill for me. So whatever it is that you're catching over there, that is one way to do it. But really another way to do it, if they're flying around and coming for your face, just use a net the way well, I was going to say the way I've shown you how to use a net, but you might not have seen my video on how to make a net, and it was a rather convoluted way to make a net, actually. Do you have a sewing person in your life, somebody who knows their way with a thread? Ask them to make a simple net out of mosquito netting, and leave a hole in the bottom for you to put a little medicine bottle or a plastic cup. I never go anywhere in the car without one or two of those, and I use a racket, a badminton racket. Badminton is a sport that people used to play, I believe, back in the dark ages. I know my parents used to play it. Terrible game. They whack a bird around, shuttlecock, something like that. Anyway, those rackets are perfect because they're the right length, nice big opening on them. And you know what just occurred to me? I've been yakking on and using hand gestures like the size of a racket and all this, while you've been looking at my table for half an hour. That's going to be an interesting video to watch. Sorry about that. In OBS, I can see what's coming up as well as what's on, and if I'm looking at the wrong part of the screen, I can think what I'm looking at is on, and it's not. It hadn't been on. So I'll do all the hand signals again so that you can resync the video later on. Sorry about that. So yes, build a net, get somebody to make you a net, or buy a net. And if they're buzzing around you, they're also buzzing around other people, and you can maybe make a couple of judicious passes in front of somebody else, but let them know you're going to do it first. There are parts of the world where I think that would be taken as a threatening gesture, to swipe somebody in the face with a tennis racket, so be careful. Tack. It is tack then. And you are more than welcome. I do hope that that you've had a good stay over here, or it's probably none of my business. So have a safe trip home, and I think you have the internet there, right? Right? I'm sure you do. There's at least one internet cable there. So plug into that, and just come back next week when you get home, or yeah, do that. Because I've always wanted to have a Thai friend to watch. Don't have one of those. Killdeer, that's the name. That's the name, and they are very noisy. They make you feel very sorry for them. Terribly mean of them, really, to play on an old man's sympathies like that. Are ambush bugs local where you live, or could you find them? Yes, you absolutely will find them wherever there is goldenrod, but they are an absolute hassle to find. Well, no, hassle's a terrible choice of words. They're so much fun to find because they blend in unbelievably well with goldenrod. The trick is they are invisible from the perspective of a bee or a wasp or an ichneumon, and anything that is coming to that goldenrod to feed on nectar and drag off some pollen will not see the thing. It sits there like a big lobster wearing a costume that makes it look like a goldenrod. and just sits there with its claws ready to go, and that first thing that settles on that flower, and it jumps on it, and it'll jump on things way bigger than itself. I mean, these things are amazing. But if you take, you know how the goldenrod flowers, they open up at the top in a flat surface. I wish I could share my screen and show you this. I didn't think about that. I need to get a tablet or something so I can hold it up. But the goldenrod has the flowers on the top, and then the little florets have stems that join up onto the main stem. The way I look for goldenrods is to find a nice big bunch of the yellow flowers and flip it sideways and look from the bottom. If you look from the bottom, you'll see its big incongruous butt hanging down, and that's how you find them. Look for the other end, the non-camouflaged end. And they're not big. They're in fact they're tiny, but they're really strong, and they're very aggressive with their prey. Last year, the last day of summer, I went out. The Saturday the clocks go back, and I was out there trying to get one last look at live ambush bugs in the goldenrod, because there wasn't much goldenrod left, and I didn't find anything for most of the day. And then at the last little bit, I started finding them, and I got to see an ambush bug actually take an insect as it was taking off and pierce it with its big proboscis, and caught the whole thing on video. So yeah, that was a great experience. I have not been out even once this year. I need to get out there and get some of that done. That was a fun video to make. All right, you are at work at the Rethen Studios. Just started photography, but you're interested in macro. Good. Yeah, we are too, but you don't have to be. You can just be interested in watching somebody make a fool of himself and come to this channel. Miniature model painting. That's pretty cool. That's what you do? Huh. That would be interesting. I often wondered who did that. I assumed it was a machine, but maybe not. Huh. Yeah, Walter, I miss my handsome face too. I don't. When did you see me with a handsome face? That must have been Halloween. Let me see. Would a fish tank net do? No, it would not, unless it had mosquito netting for the netting, and it's too small. I mean, how big is your fish tank? If your fish tank is swimming pool size and you have one of those big long poles, that would do. What you need is something that big around. Do I have one? I usually within arm's reach I have at least one of those, but I don't. They're in the car. So yeah, no, that's you'll use this not just for making a pass in front of somebody's face, which really I'm going to retract that recommendation. Don't do that at all, especially not like at an airport or anything while you're traveling. So instead, build one of these things, and you want to catch flies and other arboreal tree dwellers. Just take one of these nets and sweep it across the front of bushes, and you will have more insects than you can shake a badminton racket at. The trick is, if you're in a hot place, as I think you will be in Thailand most of the time, you need to have a way to preserve them immediately, because the flies this size, teeny tiny 1 millimeter bugs, will bloat from decomposition in half an hour in the heat. They break down so fast, so I actually have alcohol with me. Well, Doesn't everybody though, really. No, I have a bottle of isopropyl alcohol with me out in the field, so that and I actually usually have a cooler with ice in it as well. So I will put ice cold alcohol and on the bugs right away and put them in the cooler. That will keep them from getting bloated. In the winter I don't worry about it, but in the summer, and if I was in Thailand, I'd need to do something like that. Susan wants a dissecting microscope. What characteristics should you look for? Well, I would have given you one answer to this a few years ago and a completely different answer now. I would have said, doesn't really matter. You just want something with two eyepieces that gives you a nice stereo look, maybe something with built-in lighting. But really all you need is something that is going to be like a souped up magnifying glass. I completely take that back now. I have a Leica microscope. The Leica microscope is one of the best optics I've ever looked through. It has a beautiful, massive, clear, bright picture, and it does have built-in lighting. It also has an attachment that allows me to take photographs, which is absolutely crucial for me, and I have a feeling it would be crucial for you too. You may get a microscope in order to prep and clean your insects, which is why I got one in the first place. But I spend as much time looking at and photographing things through the microscope as I do preparing things for photography in the studio. So I do both. And I wouldn't want to recommend that anybody spend a lot of money on something like this, but when I had the old Amscope microscope, which was, I would have told anybody it was fantastic. In fact, I lent it to a friend of mine just recently to get used to using a microscope, and I would have said it's perfectly good. It had a fairly small field of view. It didn't have a camera. There's no way to take pictures through it except by holding your cell phone up to the eyepiece and crossing your fingers and getting pictures. And I got quite good at doing that, but it's not ideal. But I would never just sit at the microscope going through the insects I'd found and photographing them for use in videos or whatever else. And I would never record my techniques for cleaning or positioning insects under the microscope because the picture wasn't good enough and it didn't have a camera. The picture is good enough, and it's such a pleasure to use, and the optics are so good that you can just get lost in it. It's absolutely marvelous way to survey your catch from the day, or to examine a bigger insect. You can see things that you only otherwise will see in a textbook. You can look at individual spiracles or spinnerets on spiders. You can examine living insects to see how they behave. I spent hours looking at antlion larvae just a couple of weeks ago. Their behavior is so bizarre, and you can see them this big under the microscope. So one thing I would consider, Susan, before you spend any money on a new Amscope, say, not that there's anything wrong with Amscope, they fill an important niche in the market, but at least look at the used market and see what Jeff over at Light Glass Optics has. He usually carries a large stock of used Leica microscopes at very reasonable prices. And these are the best in the world when it comes to binocular dissecting scopes. There isn't anything better. The optics is just jaw-dropping. They're so clear. So that's what I would say you need to put at the top of the list, is something with stunning optics. It's like that old guitar analogy that, boy, I've beaten to death over the last few years. But if you buy a crappy guitar, you're not going to pick it up to practice because your fingers are bleeding too much. Buy a nice guitar. That's what my teacher told me. Buy a nice guitar, you'll want to play it more. And he was right. Buy a nice microscope, you'll want to use it more, and it will be a worthwhile investment. Those Leicas hold their value forever because they're so good. Let me see. Hang on a second. Walter, you miss my handsome face, which means it's no longer handsome. Is that what you're saying? That's not very nice. Let me see. I think they would be attracted to apple cider vinegar. Who would be attracted? Nobody's attracted to apple. Oh, the flies. Okay. All right. You are a Norwegian American. No, you can't be. You are the second. Oh, no. No, the other Norwegian I know is a Sino-Norwegian, a Norwegian Chinese person. That's an interesting blend of persons right there. But yeah, so you're getting ready to retire in the land of smiles. Oh, you're moving to Alabama. I see. Oh dear. Yes, well, I'll tell you what, I would love to drop in and visit with you. I've been talking to a friend of mine in Paris about maybe going to Thailand to collect insects. He's going this year. I have always wanted to go, and I love pad thai. Yep, I do. You want a dissecting microscope? Oh, do you? I already answered that one, didn't I? Yeah, you have ambush bugs in Maine. You have them in Oregon. You have them in, what's the bottom right-hand corner? Left-hand corner. California. Everywhere. I think ambush bugs are everywhere. And they are this, much the same species. There is a goldenrod ambush bug that I think is ubiquitous. If you have goldenrod, then you have them. But there are some places don't have goldenrod. I bet Thailand doesn't have goldenrod. It might, though. Oh, you used to paint models as a kid. Okay, all right. No, you lost me on the Warhammer. I was understanding what you were saying. I used to do Airfix models when I was a kid. Aeroplane models. Boy, they were great. That was, oh, I've forgotten all about that. You'd buy the thing and it would be in pieces and you'd have to put it together and then glue it all together and then paint it so that your big brother could smash it a week later. Yeah, those were the days. Warhammer must be a thing then, a superhero or something like that. Whose nose isn't that big? Okay, I think we lost a... Holy mackerel. It's 9 o'clock and I haven't stopped talking. Listen, guys, I would hang around and finish talking, but I am giving a presentation tonight in Seattle and I have got to get there now because it starts at 9 o'clock my time, 7 o'clock their time. So I'm going to Seattle. Thank you everybody for coming. Travel safe tack on the way home to Thailand. Send me some pad thai if you have any left. And yeah, thanks for coming. And the stuff I said would be in the description with the video will be there, but probably not till the morning because I'm going to be busy for the next 2 hours. Take care, everybody. Bring a friend with you next week. Let's see if we can get some numbers here, and I'll see if I can get us some nice prizes to give away. Okay? Trick people if you have to. Trick people into watching. Good night. Thanks for coming. See you again next week. 8 o'clock Tuesday night. Thanks for coming, Emily. See you again next time.